So it sounds like they're getting money to upgrade their exhibits.
Well, they're getting money for that expansion,
Yeah.
physical expansion.
Here we go.
Good evening. Welcome back to our final workshop on the budget. And look forward to going through each one of the expansion item and having a discussion. And if it's okay with the commissioners, we'll do the same thing we've been doing in the past. As we go through each item, if I have a motion to approve, then we don't need a second, and then we'll have a vote. And if we have 4 votes, then Anita's going to put it into the spreadsheet. And I would suggest that once we go through it, we still can go back if we need to make changes to it in order for everybody to be happy with the final product. So if you want to turn to page 313 in your book.
So, Mr. Chairman, real quick, on page 314, remember we added in there, for some reason, it did not print out the second to the last one. There's that blank in there. It says outside agency.
Yes.
That should say Green Lamp at 25,000 right there.
Okay. All right. I'll write that one in.
And then also, on page 313, we talked about the Boys and Girls Club is actually shown on page 100 and page 103. So if you just stick that in, we'll make sure you remember. It's
Okay.
actually not listed in the service expansion. It's listed in the outside agency.
Okay.
Youth services.
All right. The first one is the general fund, and that's to increase the 401 contribution for non-law enforcement employees.
Motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion to approve. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
We got to get a second.
No second.
Okay.
Don't have to have a second. So we got 3. All right. Tax assessor, 1 part-time employee. The estimated net cost on that is actually a gain of $20,000.
Motion to approve.
All right, all those in favor of the part-time employee and the tax assessor, raise your right hand. Okay. Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, increase the salary range and position title change.
That was actually pulled.
Hold that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, emergency service, reclassification of positions and, pardon?
Go ahead. I got it.
Me, manager.
That information was not able to be provided by MAPS at this time.
Okay, all right, so we'll mark through that one. Animal service credit card fees of $2,500, that's the estimated cost. Question on that, Anita, are we absorbing the credit card fees for all of our other retail points?
With the exception of tax.
Okay.
So with tax, you cannot legally reduce the tax bill. The county cannot absorb the merchant processing fees if someone pays with a credit card for their tax bill. So with the exception of tax, the county does absorb all the credit card fees.
Okay. Question, would it create problems if we said on this one we're going to charge?
Consumer.
I don't think it would create a problem. I think we could probably do that. We would have to determine what the fee would be. Would it be a minimum fee? Because you have different processing costs associated with the different type of card
Right.
you charge, whether it be, debit cards are very cheap. It could be like 75 cents to $1 to process that card. Credit cards can be as high as probably 3 or 4% of the transaction. So we could do it. We would just have to figure out, are we going to charge a flat fee? Is it going to be the same for debit and credit cards and all different kinds of credit cards? Because, for example, a MasterCard or Visa is a lot cheaper processing fee than, say, Discover or American Express.
Why can't you just have a credit card processing fee of $3 or whatever on anybody that wants to pull out a credit card, and that's just what you do?
King Chicken is 3%.
You can, but you've got to
Sign's
be
right there.
careful. You've got to be careful because there is a limit. So it used to be, and I'm going to say this happened probably 10 years ago. It used to be that a merchant could not pass the fee along to the customer. They changed that probably about 10 years ago. I'm going to say around 2012, 13 or 14, they changed that. So now you can pass that fee along, but it cannot be more than 4% of the transaction fee. So if we do what you're suggesting and say that we just charge a flat $3 fee, well, that works unless somebody is paying like a $5, $6, $7 fee, because then it's over the 4%, for example.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could jump in on this, the reason we put this in as a service expansion is because the board specifically said to us, you need to ask us permission to do that. We currently receive permission from the board in previous years to do the water, so we absorb those fees under the water. We are not allowed, as y'all talked about, to do that on tax. We can, if, again, the reason we brought it back is because we didn't want to build it into the budget. We could have built it into the budget and it would have been fine. But because the board said no, we want to have we want to be the ones who say yes or no on this, we brought it back to you. The other piece of this is if, for consistency, if you wanted to, we've had conversations with the animal control folks. They get a donation line. They have a donation line item where people donate to them and people donate cash to them. That's actually what we used when we did our pilot project. And they feel like they would have enough funds in that donation line item to do what they did last time and essentially absorb those through the donation line item. If the board's acceptable with that, we can do it and it's not an issue. But we wanted to bring it to you to say, yes, do it, or no, don't do it.
Well, I guess it's probably better for us to be consistent across, each one of our retail points.
If you want to be consistent countywide, putting tax aside because there's a law there that applies to that, then the county would absorb this cost.
Okay.
I don't mind keeping doing just what we're doing right now, using the donation money. Let them resolve it over there with them themselves. It doesn't cost the taxpayers, it's not coming out of the taxpayer's pocket.
You want to make a motion?
So moved.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Do what we do now.
Yeah,
What we do now.
In the,
donation platform.
We observe it.
Another way of saying the same thing.
Good outside.
okay, the next one is the emergency medical services, converting the quick response unit to a 911 ambulance and placing that at Blunt's Creek. And you can see the estimated cost and then the anticipated offset revenue. Is anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion
Let
to,
me be sure I understand what we're doing. They're not gonna come back with another QRV unit. In other words, this is the end of the QRV unit on the south side of the river.
Until call volume drives it otherwise. Yes, sir.
You have to come back to the commissioners.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To make that change moving forward, absolutely, we would have to come back.
I
Or
can-
do adjustment.
I can support it based on that.
okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, Public Works Facility Maintenance Technician.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I didn't catch enough. I didn't catch hands on that. Can you give me that?
Unanimous.
It was unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Oh, you voted no.
I voted.
You vote no?
6-1.
6-1.
Thank you.
Okay, Public Works Facilities, Maintenance Technician. You can see the cost there, and then the anticipated offset of the expenses for net cost of $45,500.
I make a motion.
Got a motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Ain't gonna be nobody with me.
Okay. All right, health, the reclassification of a position, cost of $4,570.
I got a question before we make the motion. Mr. Manager?
Yes.
Is this one of those that the state reclassifies, that's one that they're asking us to do?
It has been through OSHR and
The
been
state personnel?
approved by North Carolina OSHR, yes.
So
They
that
have.
wasn't one that was looked at on the maps?
No, we didn't look at those because they were already classified by the state.
Okay.
So we didn't have the MAPS group relook at those because the state has those classifications already in place.
Okay.
So we didn't relook at them. And DSS and Health are required to send those requests to OSHR for them to review to say, yes, we agree with that, or no, we don't agree with that.
So my next question was, I mean, you said that there wasn't looked at during our map study. Were they in the category where there should be, or how did maps look at it? Or just one of those things they didn't look at because it was Office of State Personnel?
Correct.
Okay, well, I make a motion to approve.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
Fail.
3-4 fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, soil and water salary increase, I think that's the equivalent 2.5%. That would be on top, Brian, of the 3.5 that's,
Yes, sir. That was the
In the
request by the Solid Waste Board, Soil and Water Board.
okay. Going. Gone. Okay. Cooperative Extension Service, Agriculture Program and increase in funds, $1,380.
Motion to approve.
You all three of them at once? Don't kind of what, 40? Is it 40, 41, 40?
We can, one's for agriculture program and one for horticulture and then one for family consumer services.
Is
You,
that another one of those that's on the OSP?
No, sir. This is actually just additional funding. As you'll recall, last year before last, Rod came to you and said, I'd like to have some additional funding for those individual programs. So they would essentially have some more funds to work with. You did that for one of them. I believe this is an effort to try to equalize those across those. I think there are actually 4 programming areas that they have, and you increased one of them. I think it was the 4-H y'all increased. And I think this, as I recall, makes it equal across the remaining 3 program areas.
you want to change, you want to change you?
I'll still go with
I mean, do you want to do all 3 of them?
it. Fine.
Okay. The motion is to approve all 3 of them. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
So that's 4-3 in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Next one is Register of Deeds, capital outlay, $153,900.
Another question, this is a one-time expenditure, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. All those in favor of the,
Well, let me ask a question.
Yes.
Before we get too deep into that. I thought that there was monies that were collected for filing and recording of documents. Part of those fees went into a fund that was used for this kind of a thing. So what is the source of these funds?
The source of the funds would be county funds. There are restricted funds called automation funds. I believe the balance, the last time I looked at that, was about $40,000 because most of that money is appropriated and spent annually, those restricted funds. So this would be county funds we're using here. You could also choose to use ARPA funds. You still got $1.9 million of ARPA funds.
Well, let's use the ARPA funds. It's hard to find rat holes to put that into. It really is. Every elected official I know is talking about how to spend their ARPA funds.
Well, if it's a one-time expenditure, let's do it. That's fine, as long as it get done.
Take,
Who cares?
well, would you accept an amendment to use ARPA funds to do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And this is from 1917 to 1967, right? 50 years.
I got a look,
Turn the mic on.
Anita, let me ask you, you said that they had $40,000 of over money that didn't spend. Do we take the whole 153,000 or do we just use the 43,000 and make up the difference? Which,
I would recommend leaving the 40,000 where it's at,
Okay.
in case she has other things come up.
good luck. Thank you. I'm ready to fight.
Okay, you ready? All those in favor of the 153,900, raise your hand. All right,
So, Mr. Chairman, if we can take you to the Boys and Girls Club now on this one, that'd be
okay.
You said page 100.
So that's where you'll see that the Boys and Girls Club has requested 60,000. They received 40,000 last year, so we put it in as 40, so there's an additional 20,000 requests from them.
Mr. Manager, for disclaimer, I don't know whether I'm in order or not. Mr. Manager, for a disclaimer, I serve on that board and my excuse from voting.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, officially, on the official vote, you would have to, you need to,
For this increase.
well, you probably should.
Okay.
I mean, on the final budget, we'd need to break that out as well, because we've done that for several of y'all.
Okay.
Because the statute now doesn't allow you, if you serve on a board, to vote for that, for
Okay.
receiving funds.
Mr. Chair, would you excuse me?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Don't we have to take a vote on that?
We got to have a motion
All right.
before we can vote.
Am I in order, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir, I think you would be in order to request these.
Motion to excuse Ed Booth from the vote on,
Okay. I'll second that. All those in favor of excusing Ed, raise your right hand. Thank you.
I have a question. I guess this is directly with management. Do we have a contract with girls and boys, the boys club, for services for the amount of money that's being requested?
Somebody got too many mics on, I can't hear.
John.
All right. Their
No,
contract?
we don't.
Okay, when I got back on this board, for my 7th term, went to ethics training, and we're supposed to have a contract for services when we give money to non-governmental agencies. That's what I learned, among many other things.
Well, I've never received any emails or any instructions to that.
I haven't either.
And I also took ethics.
I guess I had different lawyers talking to me than you did.
Well,
Ethics.
you know,
I got pretty deep in all of it, since it is about ethics. There's been concerns about ethics on this board.
I think we're in order, the one that serves on the board is recuse himself. That's the general statute, as far as I'm concerned.
okay. Is there a motion to increase the amount of money from 40 to any amount? They're asking for 60, I believe it is.
I'll make the motion.
Or am I reading that right, Brian?
So, so yes, sir, the increase is an additional 20, so we put in 40 because that's what they received. They asked for 60.
Last year, that was a one-time?
Was, yes, sir, one
One
time.
time. Okay, we got a motion to do the additional 20. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
The Lone Ranger again.
Okay, the next one is the outside agency, Town of Bath Recreation. They're asking for 100. I'm gonna make a motion that we do 20 as capital. It'd be a one-time expense.
I don't have a problem with what you're doing, but I got a question here. We are making a motion to give $20,000, which I think is just. But I also understand that the property that we're investing in is not the property of the recreation department, it's the property of the school. And there's no way that we can, if they give them $20,000, they say for what? And if they don't have to do anything with it, who do we hold liable for the $20,000?
Well, I'm not sure unless the check is written on any of these.
But the property is, what I'm saying, the property is the school. And you write
Now,
the check.
part of the recreation property there belongs to the recreation and not the school.
Which part are we funding?
Well, I think there's 3 or 4 fields to the left. If you're standing on the highway and you're looking, the one on the right, the football field and that baseball belongs to the
I mean, I
county.
don't have a problem with helping them. But the thing about it is, I just want to know where we in order as far as if it goes to, if they say they're going to do lights, is it okay with the schools to do what they're doing to that property? That's all I care about.
John?
I think that, well, I think in this case, you would have to have an addendum between them and the school district that says if for any reason they go out of business or abandon it, that all that belongs to the school.
Okay.
Okay? That's number one. Number two is this had to be contingent upon the school district approving it.
Well, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it as long as they happen. I mean, it's kind of tough investing in somebody else's property. That's the only
Right,
reason.
right.
I don't have a problem with what you want to do, but I'm just trying to look at the things that we are trying to do to make it so that we can be, if there's any ever trouble between the board and the recreation department, that's what I'm doing. But as long as
Neither
that
do
happens,
you or Brian know of any documents that we have on any of these recreation within, Chakawinity, Bath, Bellhaven,
What kind of documents are you
well,
speaking to?
any kind of documents that relates to whether it's town property versus school property?
I don't. I mean, in their information they submitted, they may have referenced some of that, but I don't know.
But if memory serves me well, all the other entities own them. Town of Chakawinity own theirs, the city of Washington own theirs, town of Bellhaven own theirs. This is a different one. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just trying to look at problems that could happen down the road. I support what you're trying to do
Right,
because
right.
of the use. That's all.
So can we do that? Can we make it first contingent upon it being approved by the school board? And second, that there's an understanding that has to be the property of the school or our property?
I think you can put any strings you want on those
Okay.
funds.
Are
Okay.
you fine with that?
Yes, yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm good.
So let me make sure we understand. $20,000 one time.
Yes.
It has to be on school property and owned by the school. It has to be owned by the school.
It has to be for lights
And
and lights.
Basically, when you're making improvements to so-called leasehold properties, and you make those a permanent fixtures, the attorney can check me on that. Most of the time, that property becomes the property of the leaseholder.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we don't think we need to really do anything. The laws already says who owns it.
I think that's if you do it when it was designed.
The main thing is that it's for lights.
Yeah, lights.
not for school board or batting cage or anything like that.
Okay, so, and I don't mean to complicate the issue at all, but they asked you for $100,000.
Yes.
You're saying 20. Are you putting that to say, here's your 20, you can hang on to it for as long as you want to? Or are you saying we're giving you 20 as long as you come up with the other 80?
Well, you can call it the pledge if you want to.
I mean, I just want to make sure. You tell us however you want to handle that money.
Well, I would say a pledge.
Okay.
I have a question. Would this be a pledge with a contract for services attached to it as an addendum?
No. I mean,
I'll vote against that.
okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I mean, if it's,
Okay, got a motion. You good with it? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, you flip the page.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is the town of Bellhaven. Their request is 12. Their request is for school boards and batting cages, and I just don't think we need to go there. I mean, I think where most places really need help is on lights, and that's a big item, and it's capital improvement.
Yeah, I don't think that what they're requesting out of Bellhaven expands the offering in terms of allowing more kids to play. It's just,
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but different areas have different needs. One have need for lights and one have need for a school board. I mean, I just don't know the difference. I mean, why they don't deserve it. Not that they don't deserve it, or why that we feel that one, Pantigga could need a skate ramp.
They didn't request
I
anything.
mean, that's what I'm just using, that's the reason I
Yeah.
used them.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can make a motion if you want to
I'll make a motion.
do how much?
They asked for 12, give them 6.
All right,
Or let them come up with the other 6.
okay, for 6.
Yeah.
All right. Any restrictions other than just,
Go for school boards. I mean, they asked for school, for batting cage and school board, right?
yeah.
Are you okay if they put the scoreboard up and then sell advertisement for the scoreboard?
That's up to them. I don't want to regulate them how they make their money.
Yeah.
Okay, let's vote. All those in favor of the 6,000, raise your right hand. All right. We're down to the town of Chakawinity Recreation. Did you get it?
6.
Okay. Town of Chakawinity Recreation, estimated cost, 9,000.
That's true. That was a change. It was one we corrected. It's 24,000 they're asking for.
Okay. And that's for lights, if I remember.
Yes, sir,
Is
that's
that-
correct.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on town of Chakawinity?
So move
Is yours for,
lights.
and is it for 24,000?
It's 24. I wrote it down when they did it.
Yeah.
I'm asking what his motion is. Okay. Motion is for 24. All right. All those in favor of 24 for the town of Chakawinity for capital one time for lights, raise your right hand.
I'd like to make before I get to vote no, I'd like to say why. I'm voting no since I assume there's no contract for services on this.
No, sir. There's not.
I'll vote no again.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, can I have a moment to catch up, please?
You sure can.
Thank you.
You sure can. Scarlett, you can sing. You want to sing? No, thank you. How about Carolyn? Carolyn want to sing? Chris, you want to? How about Christina?
he preaches.
Okay.
He doesn't sing.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Say it again.
I don't care.
987654321.
Y'all gonna wear your t-shirt Saturday? Friday?
Yeah, probably.
I just said, I wish you'd get back Friday.
Wearing their t-shirts.
Oh, that's right.
Festival t-shirt. Wonder if we can get all this money. Yeah. They were gonna do that for 35%.
My stuff is gonna be one time.
Nothing I ain't called. Nothing was done to put on the table. Ain't no what's it.
Oh, are we ready? Okay, all right. The next one is the Town of Washington Park. That's 10,000. If I understand it correctly, that's for repairs on tennis courts.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, the next one is the Aurora Fossil Museum, $4,000.
I presume we had no contract for this service as well.
No, we ain't got no contract.
Okay.
Going once, going twice.
I move.
Okay, we got a motion. All right, is yours for the 4,000?
It is.
Okay, got a motion to approve 4,000, and this is reoccurring based on what they're showing in the table. So this is not a one-time, and this is for security agency cost. So, okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
I'll dance alone again. I'm not afraid to dance alone.
Well, I'm opposed to it because it's reoccurring. Beaufort County Arts Council requests $4,000 in additional funds for community program and education, and this is also a request that would be reoccurring. So this would increase their annual budget amount. Going. All right, the next one, the outside agency is Highway 17 and 64 Association. They're asking for an increase in their annual budget amount, and this one would also be a reoccurring expense of $5,000. Going. Okay, the next one is Ruth Sass. They're requesting $2,500 for operations, and this one would also be reoccurring, an increase in their amount.
I move.
Okay, we have a motion for $2,500. Those in favor? Okay. Next one is outside agency. This is in North Carolina Estuarium. This is 35,000.
Mr. Chairman, let us check that one real quick.
I think it's 50.
Let us check that one real quick.
You're talking about the 35? Pardon? Yes.
Yes, sir, let's check that real quick. I believe it was 50 as well. So that was a request for 50. They came in and made that presentation.
Okay.
One time, non-recurring.
All right. The only comment I've got on that before somebody can make a motion is that we have kitchens at the Cooperative Extension Service with 4 or 5 TVs. We have cameras. And then we also have the facility at the community college. So I'm not opposed to the expansion as it relates to education, but I'm not in favor of doing another kitchen. Well, I got a,
According to Randy, everybody that's native of Beaufort County knows how to cook fish. And then he turned around and looked at me.
We understand. We understand.
I've got a gas burner that stands up on 4 legs, and that's portable. Put it in the back of your truck.
Like I said, you get the grease hot, throw the fish in there.
Now, something I'm concerned about is, most of their clientele are kids. I mean, I see buses at the Parkway all the time where they're going through there. And, if they start feeding these kids shellfish, they might be allergic to it. And I just think that's a lot of trouble.
I just threw my comment out there. I mean, I entertain a motion for any of mine.
Go on out there, John, dance along one time.
Okay. All right, going. Pantega Academy Historical Museum, 3,500.
This is one time, isn't it?
It says window repairs and paint.
I move.
All right, for the 35?
35.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Oh, I'm not alone.
Got 3. Okay, the Humane Society of Beaufort County requests for 5,000. This will be reoccurring. This probably would save us money in the long run. This is for spray and neutering cats. I think we've done dogs and now we're doing cats. I think we've been increasing that, so. Did you?
I did.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the 5,000 increase in the budget for the Humane Society, raise your hand.
6-1. You didn't see him. You didn't watch him. I had my hand up.
I think it probably saves us money.
Yeah, we figured it because of what we'd already given last year, there's 20,000 less cats in Beaufort County.
Yeah.
There's quite a few cats.
Yeah. The next one is the
Population's going up though.
the recovery court. They're asking for an increase in their annual of 15,000, and this would be reoccurring. And this is for participant incentive transportation and court operations.
I'll motion for 5.
Got a motion for 5. Okay, that would be reoccurring, right?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. The next one is Open Door Community Center, request for 20,000. That's for additional funds requested for the agency for building expansion. That's behind their existing building. Is that right?
I'm an ex-board member on that too, so.
You're ex. You're not, okay.
Weren't you an ex? Or are you current? Oh, you're stacked, okay.
You're on the board?
Not of this one. He was asking me about the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But you're not now, so you're good to go.
I'm good then.
Okay. Waiting.
Motion for 10.
Got a motion for 10,000 for the Open Door Community Center. This is for one-time capital. Those in favor, raise your right hand. The next one is the Holy Trinity Church, 25, and that's a new request, and I was not here, so I don't know, did they come and make a presentation?
They came and made a presentation, but one of the problems I have with the presentation is they want to do upgrades to somebody else's building. And I don't think that we should get in the business of doing that, but I do believe in what they're trying to do. And it's having something like a day reporting center for, especially when it gets extremely hot or extremely cold. So I will make a motion for them for 10, not 25.
Would you put the stipulation that it would be for
Services only.
services only, not
Services
up,
only.
up? Now, how we gonna monitor? No, I'll answer that.
And not be reoccurring.
When you start doing handouts to churches, you know, there are probably, 200 churches in Beaufort County? You need to get ready, because everybody else is going to want the same treatment.
Well, with me, it all depends on what you're trying to do, and something like a day reporting center is a good thing. So I'll stick with it, the 10, and we can specifically say to them it's for services only, not for any kind of capital needs.
You can, but is it one time or recurring?
We'll see what they do.
One time.
Yeah, we'll make it one time for right now, and next year they can come back and, if it passes, and show us that they've been good stewards of it.
John,
I think we've got to be cautious about investing in services where there's no track record. I mean, I think on a startup, you need to show us that you've got some skin in the game and you can perform before we start investing taxpayer money in it. So I'm gonna have to vote no.
all right, we've got a motion for 10, right?
Right.
One time. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
You by yourself, but
All right, the next one is the Food Bank of the Albemarle.
so moved.
That's reoccurring.
So
5,000 reoccurring.
So you know, the food bank is part of the Feed America organization, which has $485 million in reserve. They got 100% reserve from their operating budget.
From the operating budget.
Yep.
Well, vote it up or down, we can vote it down.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we're down to Green Lamp, and I don't have the amount.
It says 25.
So
I
it's
think.
25. My question, I'm not sure, is it recurring or is it one time?
Well, see, last year, we did it with ARPA funds. And so this year, they're asking to be part of our system, so, but I'm not saying 25, I'm saying 15. And I can't vote basically because I sit on the board of directors, so I'm asking to be recused.
Okay, I need a motion to recuse Jerry.
So moved.
And one of you second.
I'll second.
All right, it's a second over here. All those in favor of recusing Jerry, raise your right hand. Okay. All right. Did you say did somebody make a motion
I will make a motion.
for
15.
15,000? That's recurring. That would be an increase in, well, they're not already in there, are they?
No.
No, but they got
Okay.
ARPA last year.
They were here.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, we're down to Beaufort County Pantega Community Center. This is a big one. Their request is for 1.5 million. I was not here the other night, so if anybody wants to add to that,
They weren't here either.
They weren't here.
they were not here. They're looking at a $2.5 million project. They've got a federal grant of, I think, $750,000. We contributed $10,000 for this building, I think it was in 15, to do the roof. I mean, I don't know anything about it other than Moran Raleigh Younger, I believe is his name, and his wife.
I'm not gonna make a motion to give them $1.5 million. But I will make a motion to give them $10,000 to help match that grant that we got. I will do that.
Okay.
That's for 10,000.
What is that group?
They got to, like he said.
Is there a match requirement?
The
$750,000.
100, the 1.5 million is the match, but 750,000. I mean, how they come up with that math, I really don't understand. I don't really know how you can even do that to anybody.
I guess my concern is, I don't know enough about it. I'm not opposed to making a contribution at one time, but I'm a little bit reluctant to do it at this point in time until, how do you come up with the other 1.5 million to make it work?
The chances are, that Commissioner Langley said, they're not gonna come up with that 1.5 million. But the thing about it is we can put some stipulations in there, they come up with their part, then we'll contribute.
I would agree with a pledge.
Yeah, a pledge, whatever they come up with, we'll play, I would agree with that.
Yeah. We did that on the John A. Wilkerson Center in Bellhaven. We made a pledge of 10, and once they got enough money to do the new roof, we advanced the money. But that was after they had a contract to do it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
That's fair.
I don't have a problem.
How long is that for, that pledge?
Well, we didn't put a limit on the one for the John A. Center. I think it took them 2 or 3 years before that materialized. I don't know, unless Brian or Anita can. It didn't happen. Yeah, it took 3 years.
Well, I say cap it at 3 years.
Okay. That would be a three-year commitment on a pledge of 10,000. My gut says is that they're going to have to change their plans, and hopefully the federal grant, they can get that one to where they can at least do major stuff like windows and the roof. I mean, that saves the building, you know.
So let me clarify, just for my notes. You're saying a $10,000 one time, and it will be out there, you will hold it out there for at least 3 years.
As a
for
pledge.
them as a pledge if they are able to meet the remaining.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
I'd like to add one.
Okay,
And this is for Citizens on the South Side United. That's the group right there, right before you get to Edward. Commissioner Booth and I went to their appreciation service they had. Yeah, we brought the generator for their building. They are building another building, and so at that particular function we went to, I mean, the entire community was there, and I'm just simply asking to increase theirs $1,000.
okay,
Citizens on the South Side United, that's my motion.
Is that recurring?
Yes. I mean, I think what they get from us right now is, what is it, 3,000? Is it 3,000 or $4,000?
now, is that where Eagles Wings is also going?
Yeah.
Okay, they're using that as a,
Yeah, that's why we gave them the generator.
right, okay. Okay, all those in favor of increasing that one $1,000, raise your right hand.
And I have one I'd like to add too, is the extraordinary sports program. These are the kids that have challenging issues. And I was just asked to give them $2,000.
What's the name of the group?
Extraordinary Sports Program. It's the the kids that's challenged. I put it that way.
Okay.
And they play sports on Sunday. Sunday at 1 o'clock. It's just that it's nothing but them. They play their different sports. They got different. What's the word? Disabilities. And I think I want to do that for them.
It's your motion.
That's my motion.
Okay, motion. Is that reoccurring?
Let's just do it for one time. See how I've sponsored them 1 year. I'm not a board member. I'll be the first to tell you I'm not a board member, but my wife and I sponsored them 1 year. So let's just do it, see how they do and come back with it. That's a one-time thing.
Okay.
Just to ask one more time, even though I haven't asked each and every time. I suppose there's no contract for services for
There
this.
ain't no
One-time
contract for
expenditure.
sports. These children just playing baseball and hockey and soccer. I don't know how you contract that. We're going to get it.
I don't know, I was growing up, they didn't contract Jack, but we
Well,
played anyway.
But anything's changed since you grew
Yeah,
up.
that's right.
Okay. All those in favor of the 2000 for extraordinary sports? Okay. Raise your right hand. Brian and Anita, have we missed?
Now, if you'll give us just a minute to go through a couple things.
Okay, but we've got everybody that we were trying to add.
That's my understanding. So we also need to go back and revisit a couple things, but give us just a minute if you don't mind.
One other comment, and I don't know how the best way to handle this, but Aurora and Tantigua did not do anything. They did not send any information in for the recreation and parks.
And we would keep them in the continuation budget at what they received last year.
Okay, but I mean,
As far as Aurora goes, I had some conversations with them. They're in between town clerks. They didn't really have anybody to fill out the forms and submit the paperwork.
okay.
That was why they didn't send theirs.
How about Pantigua? Any comment at all on
Getting a
Pantigua?
response on why theirs didn't come back, no, sir. They don't have a full-time person. I believe they have a part-time clerk there that doesn't work a lot of hours.
Okay. All right, we'll take a 10-minute break. Brian, you or Anita?
So,
Brian, you or Anita want to recap the total?
So a couple questions first. When we talk about the 911, establishing an additional ambulance or upgrading the QRV in the Blunt's Creek area and making it a full ambulance, there's some revenue offsets that are associated with that. And in that, there is, when we looked at it, we said, okay, there's EMS billing as a revenue offset, but then there's also adjusting the tax collection. So the way it's set up out there is there are two districts on the south side. You've got Richlands Township that's a combined fire and EMS tax. Those taxes are collected in that area, and that area extends into the Blunt's Creek area. So they butt up against each other, right? And the Chocowinity comes up to that. So both of those districts get their EMS taxes back up. Richland has fire and EMS. That's split between the fire and EMS services in Aurora. Chocowinity gets theirs based on that area. If you go in and you have the ability, because the board is the one that controls the funding of those tax areas. If you go in and say, we're going to adjust the funding stream in there, and we're taking an ambulance and putting it in Blunt's Creek, which we've defined Blunt's Creek EMS Response District as the Blunt's Creek Fire Response District, then what we can do is take GIS and lay it on top of it and parcel out and say, okay, this is the area that Beaufort County EMS is now covering. And the taxes that come in that area for EMS would then come to the county to help pay for those services. Instead of going, that little chunk, that little area in there, instead of going to Aurora and instead of going to Chocowinity, it would come to the county because the county is the one who's providing the service. So you can do that, you can agree to do that, or you can agree not to do that and just pay additional to do it. I think our recommendation to you would be that if you're providing the service, then you ought to be receiving the tax dollars for that service.
Didn't you say that you thought it was almost required
Well,
at the last?
Well, in that district, you've got to be using it to provide the services in that district. And I would argue to you that if you have broken it out, then you should be using those taxes that are in that specific district to the provider in that specific district, yes. You couldn't take those and put them in some other district.
Right. We don't know how much that is, do we?
I think we got some rough estimates. Chris has got some rough estimates on what those numbers might be.
And what Chocowinity and Aurora and Richland loses?
So real property tax values for property in that district, we have solid from the tax office. So within that Blunts Creek Fire District, the real property in there, $88,899.97 would be Chocowinity. $36,149.41 would be Aurora. So we know those numbers for sure. What we're estimating on is personal property, right? So your vehicles and things like that. So when we look at that and just trying to even get us in a ballpark, the number that Lloyd was saying would be somewhere between 10 and 20% of your real property is a good ballpark for personal property, right? So if we take those estimates, you would be looking at real and personal property to the tune of $97,789 from Chocowinity that would go to this truck, $38,751 from Aurora that would go to this truck. So that would be your offset in taxes to the best that we can estimate them at this moment, okay? The other revenue offset that would come into question would be, like we had discussed before, you're now collecting fees for the transport. We would be billing for those transports. And we know that from last calendar year, that was 170 billable calls. Of those, Aurora had 37 of them, Chocowinity had 133. What we're not sure of is what that billing would average out to be, because in our fee schedule, as we discussed, we're increasing our EMS fees to kind of cover some of that gap. We just don't know how all the insurance negotiations are going to go. So right now, our average billing for an EMS call is $632, but it could go up next year. So I don't know how much of that offset we're going to be able to gain back, but it should be better than $632.
I think you got to maintain the integrity of the tax districts. If you don't, you're going to create bulges and problems on the other side of the county and get people complaining, and then you start dipping into this one for that one. And if you don't maintain the integrity, you're just going in the wrong direction.
On the personal property, I get complaints all the time from different people because their address is Pinetown, and that might involve two different taxing districts. I'm assuming the same thing's true over there.
Yeah, it's that personal property is going to take some work on the tax office to really hone in on what that number is. I know, and one of the things Lloyd and I have talked about a lot is, a lot of our homes, particularly along the waterfront, are second homes for a lot of people. So it is likely that you have a boat, a jet ski, that is parked here in Beaufort County that has never seen another county, but it's registered in another county, right? So that's one of the things that, as I understand it, makes it difficult to really hone in on the personal.
Right.
So that's why, these numbers are not on the personal side. It's an estimate to the best that I can give you tonight for conversation purposes.
So we need to understand that we are reducing between billings and taxes reducing Chakawinity by $181,000,
That's correct.
okay? And you're reducing Richlands by,
62,142.
Did you say reduce the Chaco?
yeah. You're about to kill them.
You're taking the calls, the
Revenue
170.
for the 133 calls that they billed for in
Yeah.
Blunts Creek. And the tax values of the Blunts Creek district that this truck would now be providing a primary service to.
Now, we're doing this because we want to provide better service, right?
Yes.
Is that what that's the motivation, right?
Yes, sir.
How do you measure that?
Same way we measure calls throughout the county. So that's total number of calls, the distances that trucks travel to get there, the level of calls, whether it's ALS or BLS.
But isn't it the patient outcome that's the measure?
You're gonna have to define patient outcomes. So how many people die because we had a 5-minute longer response?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I mean, that is the
So-
reason we're doing it, though.
That's correct.
I'm not,
So we have
well, response time is,
we have an EMS district that, comparatively speaking to populated areas across the county, it takes longer for an EMS, a transport truck, to get to the Blunts Creek area and provide a transport service than anywhere else. And what we have noticed through tracking call volumes over the last couple of years, the number of calls that are occurring in that Blunts Creek area are increasing. They're not decreasing. The other thing that makes the south side unique is we have less of an ability to fill gaps on the south side than we do on the north side.
right.
Because the south side, you only have 2 agencies that are providing a transport truck. And when one of them are gone, particularly Aurora, you got to figure every call that Aurora runs, that's an hour plus turnaround time. That's a big hole to fill. And the only way we have to fill it right now is to move a Chakawinity truck over or to move our QRV over. And in those instances, when those calls come in, you're now going from a 25-minute response for an ambulance to a 45-minute response of an ambulance. That's how we're measuring and determining the need for a truck.
Yeah, but I'm struggling because in there, you got a QRV that's arriving on scene
correct.
very quickly, comparatively. Well, I shouldn't say
Potentially.
very quickly, but
Potentially,
significantly less time than an ambulance.
potentially, yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, you're the expert. I don't know. I'm just asking you. You stated a few minutes ago that Aurora, if they come up here or Greenville, anywhere, it's an hour turnaround. Do you ever use Pamlico County? I mean, Pamlico County is less than 25 minutes
Yeah, and
from,
so we do. Pamlico County does send units into Aurora to handle those second calls on occasion. But again, you're relying on a county that only has 2 EMS units.
Okay.
Right? So Pamlico County, they're a strained system as well. And as I understand, their current staffing is only to staff 2 EMS units in Pamlico County.
Okay.
So they're maxed out as it is.
I'm just wondering because I think sometime Washington County come into Beaufort County. don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah, that's the reason I asked.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what you're doing.
And for us, we're a little bit we're in a better posture for an EMS response than a lot of our neighboring counties because we're not quite as rural as they are, right?
And what you're recommending is better for everybody.
In my opinion, it's absolutely better for the south side,
Okay.
in my opinion.
And I humbly disagree.
Yeah.
I humbly disagree.
And
Because
I respect your
I think if you're going to cut Chakawinity by 181,000, you're going to make it more difficult for that primary ambulance to run.
I'm not discounting that at all. I'm sharing you the numbers
Now,
as it's
you're
applied.
talking about the second truck to run, not their
We'll
primary.
eliminate the second truck
Okay.
altogether.
Yeah, from the conversations we've had with Chakawinity, and they're still in talks with their budget process as well. But they are looking at, for this coming year, to staff only 1 911 truck.
which then means the ambulance that's gonna be in Blunt's Creek is gonna be running into Chakawinity a lot.
Could be, has that potential.
Which also means, check me if I'm right or wrong, they're also doing transports, which means that frees an ambulance up for them to make more money, have more revenue from doing transports.
As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Rebholz, but their plans for the coming budget year is to no longer be in the non-emergency transport business. So, and that's where things have
They've
been,
already laid off 5.
that's where things have been cloudy in Chakawinity in the past, where it's one agency, Chakawinity EMS, they have a non-emergency business and a 911 service.
Right.
And moving forward, as I understand it through their current talks at the moment, they are not going to be in the transport business anymore. They're gonna
You're
focus on
telling me
911
that they can't make money in the transport business?
No, sir.
There's a lot of financial problems with Chakawinity. There's some lawsuits over there. I looked at the court records on some of those lawsuits. It looks to me like as much as $1 million may have been stolen. So I think we ought to back off of this until the lawsuits are settled and the dust settles in Chakawinity and we see what's really going on over there. Because there's some serious questions, and there has always been, about honesty in those groups of people.
So I don't know anything about, any details about the lawsuit, but I would like to talk just for a moment about non-emergency, the business model of a non-emergency transport, okay? So the amount of money that those agencies can charge per call, there's a lot of variables that go into that. One of which is the distance of your transports. So the further away you carry an individual from wherever you pick them up to a doctor's appointment, that may change how much you get paid. Another thing, and I'm not a non-E expert, but one of the things that I have heard from conversations with Chakawinity is there are certain patients that insurance pays more money for. So a dialysis patient, for example, from a business model, you want dialysis patients because it's guaranteed money at a pretty good reimbursement rate. So, you know, to say that a non-E cannot make money, doing those types of transports, it's not necessarily true. You just got to have some right ingredients to make that happen. But it is difficult. In my opinion, it's difficult.
Well, there are rumors about people being on the payroll over there and not coming to work. Those sorts of things will put you out of business. But let me breeze past that to something else. Just as a question, I have noticed for the last 3 weeks or so that there are a lot of transports. When I say transports, I mean like Coastal Transport and some of the other people that do that. White Oak, I think, does transports too. All right, I've noticed that there are a lot more of those coming to the emergency room than what have been coming to the emergency room. What's going on there?
So that could be just the convenient location for those trucks to pick up patients. So that may not, it's probably not them bringing a patient to the emergency room. It just happens to be the best spot for them to park their truck and go in and out of the hospital to
Yeah,
get a patient.
and I'm not talking, and just to be clear, I'm not talking about them parking at the emergency where they offload emergency patients. I'm talking about parking at other locations in the hospital parking lot.
Right.
So,
Yeah, those could be some outpatient treatments that they're just happen to do there. There's a lot of different things that could go on there. And another reason why you may be seeing those other agencies here now, especially in the last 30 days, is, as I understand it, Chakawinity has already moved away from the non-E transport side. They've already told the hospital, we're not going to be able to do this, and started phasing that back. So that,
I trust you because you do it every day. What you're telling us today, the best service. I mean, all the lawsuits and all that, I don't want to get into it. What I want to get into is what's best for the citizens on the south side. So you're telling us today that this is the best outcome for the citizens on the south side.
in my opinion, this is better than what we're currently providing on the south side.
And also, Commissioner Rebholz said that you're killing Chakawinity when you take that $180,000.
That's correct.
And that don't, I mean, the thing that I want to be sure of when we make the decision is that we do not have those people on the south side with no less service than we have on the north side. That is all I care about.
Well, here, now you do the math, okay? Or just do the distance math. We're talking about putting a ambulance on the Blunt's Creek to get to Blunt's Creek faster, okay? We've got a QRV that gets there faster right now. But if they gotta transport, then they gotta wait for Chocowinity or Aurora to arrive. If we degrade Chocowinity's ability to respond, for example, yesterday they had 2 ambulances out at the same time on 2 different calls, then you're gonna have, the response time is gonna be longer to some of these other calls in Chocowinity, because they're gonna be coming from Blunt's Creek now.
So a couple of things on, go ahead.
So I don't know where the balance is in terms of providing the best service. I think you're gonna degrade some, you're gonna improve others.
Give me 1 second, because I think I have some information about operational cost. I just need to pull up the right file here, but I'm pretty sure I have some Chocowinity numbers because we were involved in some conversations with them.
Yeah, I think there's,
So how much on the revenue?
That's the other QRP, that's up to them, that's up to them, but they want to do that building transport. So we just have one EMS truck in Chocowinity, the other ones, they got the transport.
they got 3.
They got 2 EMS trucks and 1 transport. They got 3.
So again, this is something that we hear a lot in conversation, is that Chocowinity has multiple trucks, okay? By contract with us, our contracted EMS agencies are required to have 1 paramedic 911 transport truck. When Chocowinity got into the non-emergency business side, their business model was, we will run these additional trucks as a non-E business truck. And if they're not doing a non-E and a second 911 call comes in, then that truck will take a 911 call, right? That was the original model. And one of the things that we helped provide Chocowinity with in some data and some conversations over recent months is how often do those second calls occur? How often do they have their 911 truck on a call and a second call comes in? And from the best that we could analyze their data, that was happening less than 50 times a year.
Well, that, put the qualification on that,
Okay?
which is the 1 hour.
I'm not following the 1 hour.
The 2 calls within 1 hour.
2 calls.
That's the way
within
you
1 hour.
measured that.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So we would love to be able to measure data better, but it's just what we're having to measure right now.
Let's put this qualification on it. You got a lot of people over there at Chocowinity. I've had accusations now for 5 years about people being on the payroll and not coming to work. So if you have people on the payroll and not coming to work, how well has Chocowinity actually managed their situation? Because if you look at the fact that they're so close to Washington, they can do backups for Washington, for the north side of the river. They can keep those ambulances busy. And if you look at them running an aggressive, well-managed business model of picking up people and delivering them somewhere, they should be rolling in money. But what we've got is a situation at Chocowinity where we have people under indictment for stealing as much as $1 million out of these funds, and you have accusations of people not coming to work. What you've got is a very poorly managed situation over there. And again, what I think you should do from a management standpoint is make the changes that we've already voted to make, wait a year, and let's see what shakes out at Chocowinity, whether people are still coming to work, whether they're managing their situation as well as they should, because you have got a serious management problem in Chocowinity, and you had it for a long time, and this board has sat here and closed their eyes every time I've brought it up. You have not been willing to audit them. You have not been willing to look at what's going on over there. If you had listened to me and audited them when you should have, you would have known about the thievery, and you would have known about the people who were not coming to work that should be coming to work. So funding and looking after a situation that's bad, we shouldn't be doing this. Wait a year. Let's see what really happens at Chalkawinity when they have to go to work.
So when we were looking, I know there were a couple of questions about operational cost. And if we took 181,000 from Chalkawinity, what would that leave them to operate on? Right? I think that was a question I believe you were asking. What does this, how much are we harming them, right? So from the tax side of what Chalkawinity EMS is going to get in taxes, from the rural area, they're going to get 469,000 in taxes right now. That's what they got this year. From the municipal side, they got $41,000. So that's carrying us to about 528, I believe is what we just calculated. So they're getting 528,000 in tax revenue. They, by the documents that they shared with us in meetings, they are projected to get about 475 to 500,000 in EMS billing in addition to that. So they're going to be somewhere around the $1 million mark for EMS, for 911 EMS revenue in Chalkawinity EMS. Now, we don't know the details of how much it actually costs them to operate a truck, but I do know how much it costs us to operate a truck. So when we're staffing a paramedic level ambulance, and we are taking into account capital replacement, so a truck, a monitor, things like that on a 5-year cycle, we're at $775 a year. So I think that's the question, that's where Commissioner Rebholz is bringing this to question, is if we take 180 from their $1 million, they're close to what it's costing us to operate that 911 truck on a year. And it's going to be tight. I'm going to be honest with you.
In your investigations with Chalkawinity, and you bring this up, what do they say? They say, we can't, you do that, we're out of business.
From everything that I see from Chalkawinity, they're trying to figure out how to salvage their EMS. I'm just being honest, right? They're running through all the options on how to salvage EMS as their agency. Am I correct on portraying that?
Well, they're trying to fix the problem. I don't know if it's salvaging EMS or not. The only thing I do know is that they voted at their last meeting to do away with the transport.
So they are having those conversations and trying to determine what direction they go to keep Chalkawinity EMS as an agency like we have historically.
Well, when it comes to the quick response unit, when we first got in the business, this was the model, one on the north side and one on the south side. We've been in it long enough now that we've got data on both sides of the river. And my personal observation is that our plan should be to close both of those down. It's really just a matter of, the timing. The thing that concerns me on the south side is, the conversations that I've had, and the amount of money that was floating out there one time that the county was potentially going to be asked for. Mm-hmm. Plus Blunt's Creek, it's a taxing district, and that money now goes to Aurora and it goes to Chalkawinity. That money, along with what we're spending on the quick response unit, I think the time and the data that we have, that it's time for us to consider making a move. My question is, can we pull this off? How fast can we pull it off? This is June. Do we need to be saying that we're going to do it October the 1st, January the 1st? What is your thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, so we could certainly have, our goal would be to implement that truck on the July 1 date. Now, will we have 4 new employees hired by July 1? No, we won't. That's probably going to be a September, October timeframe. By the time we advertise recruit, get applicants, run through the process, and get them on shift. So I would be very surprised if we have full-time employees through our normal hiring processes before we get into September. So what do we do between July 1 and we hire those employees, right? That's an overtime piece, just like we fill vacancies now because we're not minimally staffed. So we would put that out. We would try everything in our power to recruit and get overtime to fill those positions. We also, as staffing contingencies, we refer to it as down staffing. But what are our contingencies, right? What happens if I don't have 2 people on that truck that day? Well, if we don't have 2 people on that truck that day, we run it as a QRV, right? Something is better than nothing. So that's kind of the operational movements that we make every day to fill vacancies. As far as capital equipment for this particular year, our plan is to use one of our spare EMS trucks as that transport. And we upfit it with a lift system that all of our other frontline trucks have. And we run it that way. And then we plan for, in our capital replacement plan moving forward, to add that into a replacement rotation. So for us, our goal would be to have that truck in service July 1. And that would be utilizing a spare truck with equipment that we already have, and most likely an overtime capacity for 1 person each day.
I'm good with it.
I mean, to me, now that we've got as far as we have in EMS, I feel much more comfortable servicing the south side with Aurora, Blunt's Creek, and Chocowinity than I do having the quick response unit in Blunt's Creek.
I mean, that is, my opinion is the same. Again, like I've said a few times already, I believe that having a transport truck, a third transport truck in that Blunt's Creek area is better than what we're currently providing, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to take the recommendation to appropriate the money.
Well, we've already done that. It's a matter of whether anybody wants to take it off the table. I mean, it's already been approved one time.
Well, let's go ahead. I wouldn't want to take it off the table. We've already done it.
I make a motion that we take it off the table.
Okay, we got a motion to take it off the table.
Let me say a few words about this. You got a motion?
We
Mike,
got a situation in Chocowinity that's crippling this thing. Chris has shown us that the funding is available for the Chocowinity unit for the year based upon our budgetary process. There's no reason, we've done this before, if Chocowinity got into trouble, you're 9 months in and you find out you're in trouble, there's no reason that we can't appropriate more funds to bail Chocowinity out until the situation can be managed better. The problem, the black eye that Chocowinity has is really bad management. I've had complaints, and I believe them for years, about people in Chocowinity working in EMS and fire, holding full salary jobs and not coming to work. Chocowinity should have made money with their delivery, with their pickup and delivery system. All you have to do is manage it. The reason they lost money is there was no management there. There was no management available. Apparently, if they're funded for the coming year, there's no reason to take this off the table. We need to go forward and provide good service for everybody on the south side of the river by going forward with what this board has decided piecemeal. Just because one commissioner is surprised and he's running for office that there may be some money on the table that he can get for what is already a corrupt and failing EMS unit is not justification for us to change this. It is, as Ed Booth said, it's about good service for the people on the south side of the river. That's what we're trying to do. And we, as commissioners, have a way of saving Chocowinity if we have to. So I don't see where we are at great risk with this. It's just a matter of doing the right thing.
This is tough.
Let me educate you first of all. There is no full-time employee in the Chocowinity Fire. Okay? They don't have a full-time employee.
I'm talking about over a period of years, John. I'm not talking about what's going on instantly. My experience with this has gone on for over 10 years.
But that's not what you said.
That is what I said. I said I've had for years. You didn't hear me. Listen to what I say.
Listen to what I said, okay? I'm not making any money out of this thing. I am in equally trying to provide the right service for the south side. Okay? You're taking away service and you're gonna extend response times to where the majority of the calls are on the south
That
side.
is blatantly not true. What you just said is not true. He just stood here and told us we would improve service.
Wait a minute. Okay? How many calls are there in the Blunt's Creek area?
For the calendar year of 2022, we had just over 300 reports generated and 170 billable transports.
Okay,
For that Blunt's Creek.
for that. How many did you have in Chakawinity?
I'll have to pull that. Give me 1 second. Chakawinity is normally they bounce between number 2 and 3 busiest
Well, it's been number 2 for quite some time.
in the county. 1 second. I'm sorry. Just a second.
I think it was around 1,300.
It might have been a little more. Give me 1 second. But I think to get to what the point you're trying to make is anytime you have a greater populace, more people in an area, you're going to have more EMS calls, right? So when we just look at it from a population standpoint, Chakawinity, that district, they do have more people and therefore have more EMS calls. That's a natural thing.
Yeah.
Jerry? I'm for us moving forward, and I just want everybody to understand this. And Hood said something that I totally agree with, and that is if we get to the point where Chakawinity needs our assistance, we have got to be there to do that. Now that is my basis for what I'm going to do. I mean, I think we all should understand that if it gets to the point where they need us financially to help them, then we should step up and do that.
Commissioner Rebholz, to get your numbers for the calendar year of 2023, Chakawinity EMS as a whole ran 1,450 calls. 1,057 of them would have occurred in the Chakawinity Fire District line. That's correct.
And it was, I think you said 200, or roughly 100 and some into Blunt's Creek, right?
151 into Blunt's Creek, 187 into the city of Washington.
Commissioner Redvold, I want to ask you a question now. You said that it's going to increase time. How is it going to increase time?
Well,
Explain that.
okay. Right now, if there's a second call in that Chakawinity area, the 1,000 and how many?
In the Chakawinity Fire District area, 1,057.
Okay. If you've got the backup coming into that from Blunt's Creek instead of Chakawinity now, it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes longer. It's 15 minutes.
My question is, how often do that happen?
We don't know for sure. We got an estimate.
We know from everything we're able to calculate the frequency in which Chakawinity has 2 EMS calls within an hour of each other happens less than 50 times a year.
That's what I thought.
And there doesn't, from everything we're able to track, Chakawinity has some hot pockets. The 17 area, Gray Road area, we do run some calls in Cypress. But those calls kind of happen all over. It's not like all the calls are centrally located, right? So where those second calls are happening and how much of a delay that would create for another truck coming in, that's beyond what we can measure at the moment. The other thing that Chakawinity has is their fire department does run a first responder program, particularly during the day when they have a full-time person. So they, in essence, are running their fire trucks similar to the way we run our QRVs, where if that ambulance is on a call, and another 911 calls in, the fire department goes. Now, they can't provide the level of service that our QRV provides, but that community is trying to fill that gap for other agencies that are coming to them.
And there's also the city of Washington as well. I mean,
That's correct.
How much do you rely on Washington? And I mean, they're getting another truck, so
Yeah.
all's good there.
So, when we operate under those mutual aid ideas, right? The idea is I'll help you when you need it and you help me when I need it. But in the EMS world, again, you go back to population. So City of Washington, our largest municipality, have more calls. The frequency in which Washington gives help to agencies is not as great as the frequency in which they get help from agencies. So, for example, Chocowinity went into the city of Washington 187 times. Washington returned the favor 51 times for the calendar year of 2023. And it's because the majority of our calls happen in Washington.
Now, that's an important piece right there. Chocowinity was over here. The truck was over here. So while the truck was over here, the backup truck was Blunt's Creek. Am I correct?
For a cure, for a
If something
medical
happened.
response.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's nothing changed from what we're doing already. What you're telling me.
The only difference would be you're getting an ambulance that can transport a patient versus an SUV that can tend to a patient until an ambulance gets there.
And you can charge.
If you,
And we can charge.
if you get back to the EMS billings, based on what Chocowinity has been doing inside of the Tanner Chocowinity and Chocowinity tax district, if you take the tax money plus the billings, that pretty well justifies 2 trucks. And what we're doing is we're adding a truck at Blunt's Creek. So EMS service, all of a sudden on the south side, has 1 truck, an extra truck that can answer calls. Am I not?
Say that one more, it would have an additional.
I mean, the business model should be that Chocowinity can still have 2 EMS trucks.
No.
I mean, based on the number of calls and what they collected?
No.
I don't think they could fully, so it's a loaded question because I don't know what Chocowinity's actual cost of operating a truck is. Okay, I'm just being very transparent. So when I give this answer, I'm basing that on our number, which I believe would be higher than Chocowinity because of the benefits we have for our full-time employees. Okay. We could not operate 2 full-time ambulances for $1 million or $1.2 million. We really need to be around that 1.4, 1.5 million to operate 2 paramedic level ambulances 24/7 at our cost of operation. Now, again, when you're talking about how do you make dollars meet in an EMS world, there's 2 variables, right? You either got to have a really good tax basis or a really high call volume. You got to have a combination of those 2. And that is how we as Beaufort County EMS got into the EMS business, is we had areas in our county that were short on one of those 2 variables. It either didn't have a high tax value or it didn't have a call volume or both. So those are the ingredients you look at when you're trying to make EMS pay for itself. And, that's not a common thing. I mean, it's a service, So.
I think you told us when we started, somebody told us that you wasn't gonna never make no money on EMS services, and we're not looking to make money. The only thing that I'm worried about, and I want to be sure, and I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust you because you do it every day. You got the numbers. Only thing that I'm gonna hold you accountable for, and you might not can control it, but I'm gonna still hold you accountable.
It's okay.
Is that the level of service stay the same on the south side as it is over here? I mean, you run the numbers. I think you said $775,000 a year to operate one of your trucks. So if they can make it on 775, if you can make it on 775,000, they should be able to make it.
I believe that, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, well, we got a motion to withdraw that. So all those in favor of the motion to withdraw adding the truck at Blunt's Creek, raise your right hand. Okay. All right, you want to give us a summary of the numbers and the source of revenues, Nita? Is that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I could get Brandon to bring up my spreadsheet, please. All right, can everybody see that? Okay, so this is the expense side of next year's budget. We began with the manager's recommended budget of $75,204,796. Remember, we had that correction where I missed putting Agape in the continuation budget. So the add and deduct there's correcting that. We're adding Agape back in at 25,000. We rebalanced the budget by reducing an expenditure, which is contingency of 25,000. So that's a net of zero there. The board tonight added the following items. I'll just go with the ones that passed, if that's okay.
All right.
The tax assessor part-time employee, which is a recurring expense. And I'm telling you what, for a lot of older fellows, y'all went really fast. So I might have some typos here.
Don't worry about the typos.
So that is a recurring, actually, it's a net gain to us because of the additional revenue he believes that employee will bring in. So we show that as a negative 20,000 instead of a cost. Going on down, highlighted in purple, the ambulance at Blunt's Creek. Just want to walk you through these numbers because we really, although Chris talked about them, just want to make sure you understand how those numbers are working here. So on page 321 of your budget book, if you have that, if you want to turn there, give you just a minute to do that. So we have to budget on the expenditure side the full cost of the personnel, the operational cost, and then the equipment for the power load stretcher. So that's why we're showing the expenditure at, and I always take the more conservative, the higher amount of $392,548. And we'll talk about the revenue offset, so just set that aside for a moment. We'll talk about the revenue that offsets that in just a minute, but let's continue on. You also added cooperative extension program expansion. There were 3 programs at $1,380 apiece for a total of $4,140. You added, the Register of Deeds digitization project. You did unanimously vote to do that. However, that is going to be paid with ARPA funds. So that doesn't affect next year's budget. What you'll see from me is a budget amendment in July to ratify that and appropriate the ARPA funds to pay for that. So we talked about cooperative extension. Oh. Okay, yes. And then you all added a one-time appropriation for lighting at Bath Recreation. You had stipulations on that. It's actually a pledge, and the fields have to be owned by the schools. And again, it's for lights, and the Recreation Department has to come up with the other $80,000 for that project. Am I right in saying that? Please correct me if I'm wrong. A one-time appropriation to Bellhaven to be used for scoreboards. A one-time appropriation to the town of Chocowinity to be used for lighting in the amount of $24,000. Going on down, a recurring $5,000 appropriation to the Humane Society, a recurring $5,000 appropriation to the Recovery Court, a one-time appropriation to Open Door in the amount of $10,000, a recurring appropriation in the amount of $15,000 to Green Lamp, a one-time contribution, it's actually a pledge in the amount of $10,000 to Beaufort County Pantigga Community Center. And this is good for 3 years, and they get the $10,000 pledge as long as they can come up with the remaining funds to do their project. $1,000 recurring to citizens on the south side. And that's all I have. Oh, excuse me, 2,000 one time to the Excel program. So all in all, if you look at your recurring expenditures, it's $402,688. The one time, which I would recommend you use fund balance appropriated as the revenue to offset those, is $72,000. And then we talked about that digitization project of the Register of Deeds. That's going to be ARPA funds, and we'll do an amendment at the July meeting for that. So back on the revenue side, and back to the sheet for EMS. So Chris is estimating that the EMS billing will bring in $109,370. And also, when we change the allocation for the district taxes, the county share of that is estimated to be between $136,000 and $148,000. So I'm using the lower number of $136,542. So the difference between the cost of the expansion, $392,548, and those two revenue offsets is $146,636 for the EMS truck. So we'll have to figure out what revenue we'll use to pay that. And then the difference between revenues and expenditures, once we find that $146,000 to pay for the EMS truck, we need to find an additional $10,140 to balance the budget.
That's not bad.
We still have 25 in the contingency fund.
We do.
My calculation was that based on 35% fund balance policy that we have, and the estimate that you gave us, which was 35 point. Yeah, okay. I had it written down, but I didn't put the percentage in here. Anyways, that, whatever that was, the over 35% was 302,000.
I'm showing an estimate of 35.42%.
So the 0.42 is 300,000.
I hear you say you're comfortable with using fund balance appropriated.
I am.
I'm good as well.
All those in favor of using the fund balance, raise your right hand.
How much?
It was a
10,000.
no, it's 10 plus the EMS number. Am I not right?
So in total, it would be, so it'd be $156,776 to cover the EMS truck difference and that $10,140 difference. Plus, we're already using $72,000 for the one time. So your total amounts appropriation would be $228,776.
Okay, all those in favor of using the fund balance for that amount, raise your right hand.
So all in all, if we go down, we should have a balanced budget. And we do, and the total budget for fiscal year 24-25 will be $75,679,484 for general.
Yes.
Anita, just for the records here, this thing been bothering me. The expansion that we had for the employees for 401K. What would that cost us to do that?
So I did a little research on that. Okay, there we go. Did a little research on that. Let me just pull that here. So the first thing the manager asked me to do, and I think it was based on your concern about the 401K, seeing what that would cost, is he asked me to call the area towns and counties around us to see what they do. So I did that. Couldn't get up with everybody, but got up with the folks that I could. And so the city of Greenville currently, they've already passed their budget. They've got 3% in their budget for 401K. So there's no employee contribution required. So the city of Greenville contributes 3% for their employees' 401K, the non-Leo, because that's what we're talking about here, because Leo's by law 5%. Pitt County, hold your seats, they're doing 6.4%. So they're exceeding the Leo contribution.
They're also going up 8-point-some odd percent on their budget.
Craven County, they do between 2 and 5, and back to Pitt County, there's no employee contribution required to get the 6.4%. Craven County does between 2 and 5% depending on what the employee does. So Craven County automatically gives the employees 2%, and they'll match up to 5% if the employee contributes. So for example, if I put in 3%, Craven County will put in 3%. If I put in 4% as the employee, they'll do 4 and 5 and 5. So they do have a match except for the 2% piece. City of Washington's, theirs is they're the only ones that had a flat amount. They do $10 per pay period, as long as the employee contributes $5.
So if we implemented it for our employees.
Cost.
That's what.
Okay, the next thing is the cost. I have some good information on merit and COLA also, if y'all were interested in that.
I don't want to hear
Okay.
about merit.
Cost. Now, this is an estimate because I have no way of knowing what employees will choose to contribute. All I can do is go on what people are doing right now. So currently, our current rule is the county gives every non-Leo employee 1% automatically, okay? If the employee puts in 1%, then the county does 2%, all right? So we have 69 employees that are getting the lesser amount of 401K. We have 249 employees that are putting in what they need to get the full 2%. So based on that, my estimate of what an additional percent would cost is $148,000.
And the reason I asked that, I don't know, Pamlico County, did they do anything? Did you check Pamlico County?
I didn't get up with them. I couldn't.
I think as good an employees as we have, I really think that this is a disgrace that we don't, and it's their choice. That's if everybody do it. It ain't gonna cost $200,000. I think this is a good retainer to keep our employees here. I mean, I really do. And I wish we would reconsider at least putting 1% in there. I mean, that's just the way I feel. I mean, I do what we can for our employees. Do y'all, anybody else feel that way? No.
Well, I've asked for some numbers, and I didn't ask for them to be presented tonight. Based on the legislative goals, one of the ones we wanted to try to bring to the forefront for the legislature is retirement and health benefits. To me, what you have to look at is you have to look at salaries and all the benefits, and then you have to divide that by the number of employees you have. that's the only way you can compare with other counties. Because you're taking all of your expenses and you're putting an average out there based on 400 employees or whatever the number is. I'm opposed to doing anything on the 401. If you get outside of government, you know, you don't have anything but 401k. You don't have this retirement, and this retirement just keeps going up every year at a faster, seems like at a faster pace. And that's coming out of this pie. That's coming out of the pie for our employee costs, so.
Well, I still feel the same way. I'm sorry. I mean, I knew Mr. Richardson said I'm a government employee.
Well, and the other thing is that, you know, where we have to compete with all these other counties is on starting salary. You know, it's for the deputy, it's for the paramedic. They don't ask about 401 and retirement. They want to know what that starting salary is per hour. That's where we compete at.
Well, the reason the deputy don't ask you about that 401k, you don't have a choice. You gotta give it to him. I mean, every law enforcement officer in the state of North Carolina get that supplement. We call it a supplement. Everyone get it. I mean, if he go to work Monday morning, he's gonna get that 401k. Am I correct?
That's right.
That's not a negotiator for none of us. He's gonna get that. That's why you see troopers can retire and someone can retire with 25 years because they don't need to get that supplement until a certain age. And but we still can't punish our employees. I don't think we can punish our employees because the state don't do what they're supposed to do. The state ain't gonna never do what they're supposed to do. They haven't done it for 50 years, and they ain't gonna do it tomorrow.
Well, here again, we did the pay study, we got that up, and we've got in this budget 3.5%. So I don't want to feel like I'm being accused of punishing employees. I mean, I think with the 3.5%, we're trying to maintain. If you want to make a motion to do the 401, we'll see where it goes.
I'll make a motion to add it on. Let it fall out where it be. We've done it one time, but I still think that way it should be done.
Or you do it in like 1%?
1% a year.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
I rest my case.
Brian?
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess that would move us into the service expansions for the water fund and the solid waste fund. On page 427 is the water fund expansion. That's the 401k, so I think we can skip that page. That would take us to page 429. And I think the very first one for solid waste is the 401k, so you can skip that one. So that starts you at collection site repairs, phase 2.
What page are we on now, Brian?
Page 429.
421.
The detail would be on page 431 for this request.
Hey, Frank. So,
It didn't give you 4 votes.
It did give you 4 votes.
So the note on this one was that there's a 1.6 million in fund balance from solid waste to cover this expenditure.
Is the recommendation we take it out of the fund balance in? Okay.
So it's just whether we want to do that.
So on a whole, as you look through this, the repairs are the only one-time expenditures that you have. The remaining are showing recurring costs associated with that. And what we would recommend to you, although you don't have to do that, is that you spend one-time money on one-time expenditures and find a revenue source for recurring expenditure.
So I make a motion that we move forward with the collection site repairs phase 2 of $338,000 to be funded by the solid waste fund balance.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Well, before we vote, what are we voting for? When we say we're gonna spend $338,000.
It's listed all right up above.
So page
On
431.
the very
Commissioner
top of
Richard.
that page, 431.
431.
Yeah, 431.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is at Beach Ridge, Ransomville, Hawkins Beach, 5 Points, Buck Jones, and Aurora. It's very similar to what we've been doing west at the other sites. Okay. Okay, all right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay,
So was that 7-0?
yeah. I counted 7. Do you want to go to the next one?
So these are the full-time, that you had multiple instances of either full-time enforcement officer and using Department of Corrections, which I think we essentially, I would not recommend that to you with Department of Corrections. I think there's some discussion about that as well. I don't know that we need to get into that business with them. Then there's the solid waste enforcement officer, full-time, which would be 75,519. That's a new staff position. Then you have if you want to move on through those individually, however you want to do it.
Well, if you're talking about the officer, I'd jump down to the part-time position. I can support a part-time position.
You want to make that a motion?
That's motion, yes.
Okay, we got a motion for a part-time, which the cost on that is
26.
26.
Trash police.
Mr. Richardson, would you recommend a funding source for that?
Oh, the funding, you mean, okay, gotta have a funding source. Well, I have to think about that. That should come out of solid waste fees.
Right, so we would need to increase the solid waste fee to cover that unless you wanted to pull it out of one-time money fund balance.
Okay, yeah, the fund balance, yes. One-time money fund balance. I mean, this is an experimental position somewhat because, we may decide to drop this after this year, but I think once this person gets in the office and writes a few letters and does a few things, we're gonna see a lot of people straighten out.
Then if we agree, we can increase the fees next year to offset.
Offset it, however you want it done.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it and we keep making changes. I mean, I'm with Hood. I think we need to try it and see what happens.
Yeah, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Okay, did we vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yeah. You're not voting for trash police?
No.
Okay.
All right.
He lives in the city anyway, Hood.
So then the remaining two, you have the hazardous waste collection event, which you talked about at the meeting last night, or got an update on. That's $20,000 as a recurring event. And then the collection of cans and plastic bottles, which would be a $40,000 hauling and recycling cost at a $40,000 recurring.
Well, I can go for the hazardous waste thing because I think it was successful based on the reports we've had. I don't know about recycling cans and bottles. That should really be run based upon the economy, because if oil prices go up, this stuff's gonna become valuable again and it's gonna be recycled again. So, I think we ought to let the economy dictate ourselves.
I concur to a point with Commissioner Richardson. However, we're going to need to learn how to recycle regardless of what the economy is going to do, because you can't count on the economy. We need to count on recycling. Really do.
Well, I'll throw this in.
There's some advertising on TV that really makes me feel good, and it says the Plastics Institute, or whatever it's called, is doing a lot of research trying to figure out how to recycle plastic. So we may have something coming at us from the industry that's going to help solve the problem. But I really don't think we're going to get there until we start putting a deposit on a milk jug and a deposit on a Coke bottle so that people turn them in. I don't think you'll ever get there based on volunteerism.
You're probably right about that.
So Commissioner Richardson, I think I forwarded you a state bill that was been introduced about adding that. So if you want to push that through on your legislative agenda to try to get that supported, that may
I
be.
think we should support that.
So I guess what I'm hearing is the $20,000 on the hazardous waste clip pickup, and that would come out of fund balance as well?
I'd make that as a motion that way.
Okay, we got a motion for the 20 on the hazardous waste event, collection event. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And the other one was on recycling. Does anybody want to make a motion on the recycling of 40? Hearing none. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
Nothing on water?
The only thing in water was the 401K, and y'all shot that down on there. We always follow that on the general fund side. So your next meeting would be, there is a water committee meeting on Monday the 17th at 8:30. And then after that meeting at 10 o'clock, you have a special called meeting to adopt the budget if you so choose.
Okay.
Okay.
If I could have 1 minute for correct.
1 minute. 1 minute.
You guys know if I gave a wrong number, I'll say it. So one of the things we discussed was the frequency in which a second call occurred within 1 hour at Chocowinity. And I found the document that we provided to the town. So total for the calendar year of 2023, there were 167 occurrences in which a second call occurred in Chocowinity within an hour of another. Of those 167, they answered 97 of them. Now, what we couldn't tell was, did that first truck clear the call and go to the second, or did they have another truck take it? We just didn't know that. To put that in comparison, Washington had 709 second calls that occurred within an hour, and of which they answered 205. Broad Creek had 100, in which they answered 12. So the proportion of second calls that are occurring are not out of balance of what we experience in other districts. But I did want to clarify that for you because I gave a wrong number on that. My apologies for it.
Okay, I had asked the superintendent through Brian for information as it related to the total budget, federal, state, and local budgets for the last 5 years. And the only thing that I would call your attention to, as you may get questions from somebody, is I converted everything to the funding on a per student basis, and what's highlighted in yellow is the operate money. This does not include the debt service payment. It does not include capital. This is operate money that we've been providing to the school for 5 years, and you can see that's going up 18.3%. So that's the only comment that I would make on that. But it's a good summary sheet, and the information came directly from the schools, and Nita approved my numbers as it related to the local.
And it's almost right on inflation.
Does that include the $200,000 or so they're doing for advertising to make themselves look good every year?
Well, it's the money that we send over there for operating expenses is what is in yellow.
Well, what I'm pointing out is I have a problem with the school board going out buying billboards and paying newspapers to run ads that we're the greatest thing in the world and all this sort of stuff, and make themselves look good when they actually don't look good. If they have to go to advertising to make themselves look good, something is wrong, and they should stop that advertising. That is wasted money.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
All those in favor, raise your right hand.
We adjourned.
Yes, we are adjourning until the 17th at 10 a.m.